We'd like to welcome each and every individual to Voices of Integrity podcast. And this is, with interesting people. And Amy, she's such an interesting person. We didn't do just one podcast, but we do weekly podcasts. And Amy is very different, very, very different, very different. And so I was intrigued in the always come early, always stay late. That's where the really cool stuff is. So you said Tuesdays, Top Gun or Quantum, whatever it's going to be called. That was really cool. What was cool about it, Amy?
It was fun to see my team, which are two of my daughters, interact from a sales perspective and really think about sales differently for the first time. Because both of them said they're not salespeople, but we're all salespeople. And I just loved to see that kind of be voiced out and how you shared with them like what it is. And years ago, now mind you, not only am I boss, but I'm mom. So things
Right.
coming from me don't always land the way they should because they're my daughters. But I remember years ago running a sales team, WME in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and I remember telling my young sales staff, all salespeople do are solve problems for business owners. You're a problem solver. So if you can solve their problem and it happens to fall into advertising or marketing, then we're just a match made in heaven, right? All you're doing is listening for problems. And if they don't have a marketing or advertising problem, do we know someone that can help solve their problem and can we connect them, right?
Right. Well,
So,
this is the thing. This is the thing I love about just asking what's the biggest challenge that you're facing in any area of your business
yeah.
or life. And 33% of people will say time, something specific about time. And so 97% of people, if you ask them if you had more time, would that help you to solve your problem? And they'll say yes. So everything's connected into time.
But they say yes, but do they really mean yes?
That's the key. Like you can bring a horse to water, you can't make him drink, but you can put salt in the oats. So I've been working on that for 15 years, and humans are not like horses. They're dumber.
Well,
So go
but
ahead.
you talk about the time thing, right? So my goal, my team works a 32-hour or less work week. They have Fridays off. Um, I was transitioning to get to Fridays off, but so talk about because I know you understand workaholics as this is like an addiction podcast. Sometimes we bring up addictions and stuff like that. Um, how does and this is something I struggled with when I first stopped working a 40-hour work week, I had enormous guilt. I felt bad, I felt lazy.
You know why you felt guilty?
I'm not I don't know. I'm still I've always wondered because sometimes it still creeps back up. Like if I'm
Yeah,
off
yeah, no.
early, it
I
creeps
can
back
explain
in.
it to you. Nope,
Yes, do it.
this will happen fast. It's because you're a woman. I mean, there's proven. Have you ever read the book Lean In by Sheryl Sandberg?
I have not.
Oh, read that book. It explains
Okay.
women. I think, people like Mark, you're a woman whisperer. But that book, I learned so much about women and business, but it makes sense. So women have men in the book, and there's scientific research that proves this. Men don't seem to have guilt that they should have. And women have a bunch of guilt that they shouldn't have. So there's negative guilt and positive guilt. Positive guilt is feeling guilty about something we should feel guilty about. If we have positive guilt, then we change our behavior before life brings us down hard. Negative guilt is feeling guilty about things we shouldn't feel guilty about. So my wife, like 7 kids, she never worked outside the home, and so she full-time stay-at-home mom,
Yeah, and that's a full-time job.
and she homeschooled the kids.
Mhm.
And what did she feel guilty about? Not spending enough time with them. I'm like, honey, you can't spend any more time with like you can't. It's not even help, like you can't. But so women have all this guilt that they shouldn't have. And I think that's not healthy for multiple reasons. One of which is they don't have guilt where they should have guilt. When we have negative guilt, where we feel guilty about things that we shouldn't feel guilty, it takes away energy from things we should feel guilty about. And so if there's nothing we can do about it, you know, and so, in action vision coaching, it's one of the things we do in building somebody's action vision plan, where they go ahead and say, I want to spend more time with my kids. Okay. Like, how much time are you spending now? Well, I don't know. Well, then how will you know if you're spending more?
Right. Tracking it.
Yeah. So it's like, okay, so you're spending, 30 minutes a day. Yeah. You want to spend more. Okay. So is that 31 minutes? Like, if you spend 31 minutes, you're good? Because that's technically, so people aren't clear, especially women, they're not clear on what they want. And so they don't know when to celebrate. So you have the woman, it's just, there's all this go. Like, in 34 years of doing business and executive coaching, I cannot tell you how many women have come to do a scoring of their action vision plan, and they're like, Mark, I've been bad this month. I mean, I've never, ever once had a man ever say that. Never.
Well, that also doesn't surprise me.
Right. Like, right. It's like, and so I think what you do is, when you feel guilty, um, you say, is this good guilt or is it bad guilt?
Mhm.
So in sales, for example, so in this podcast, we cover everything. I mean, everything. I mean, the whole gamut. So in sales, it's like, well, I should be making more phone calls. You can always say that. I should be making.
Right.
So what you do is you say, well, what should I do? So I think I've shared in the previous one, I do between 15 and 25 podcasts a week. So I lose track. Which ones have I shared, which in, but I think I shared when I was 19 years old. And my mom went ahead and said, it was right before I got married. And my mom said, Mark, I'm concerned that you're going to be a workaholic. So my mom and dad, they were monsters in work. And my grandparents on both sides were monster workers. And she's like, you come from both sides of the family, really hard work ethic, and you're on steroids, buddy. I don't know what she's thinking. I had 2 full-time jobs when I was in high school and like 3 part-time jobs. I mean, but it wasn't for that. It was like, you either work at home and don't get paid, or go out and find a job. Like,
Yeah.
so I
And I
found
like
that.
getting paid. Yeah.
Right. Like, I did too. So I took that to heart. And she says, I just want you to remember, something, Mark. I've never seen anybody on their deathbed that said they wish they spent more time working. And I'm
Mhm.
19 years old, and I'm not a smart aleck. I'm curious. I'm like, so Mom, I'm curious. Like, have you ever seen anybody on their deathbed that said they spent enough time with their family? And she's like, well, no. I said, so what you're telling me, Mom, is no matter how much time I spend with my wife and kids in the future, like, it's never enough. And she's like, Mark, that's not really what I was trying to. But that was the seed for Action Vision, which came 8 years later. 8 years later, because I'm like, Mark, you've got like you got a big vision. Like, God gave you a big vision when you were 8, touch every single person in the world, one person at a time, make a huge difference in every aspect of their life in a really fun and exciting way. And yep, that's 8+ billion people. I've known that, for 54 years. And so that's a pretty big vision. And so I think being productive,
Mhm.
people will say, Mark, you're not spontaneous. I'm like, that's not true. I plan spontaneity. They're like, you can't plan spontaneity. I'm that good of a, like, when you go on vacation with 7 kids, it's not easy to, it's not easy to make them all happy with your wife and stuff. So it's like, we have one day of planned spontaneity. Like, you guys can do anything you want to do, whatever it is. And so I, so I think I look at work, like, everything to me, I'm all in. I'm just addicted to win. I am addicted to do my best. I'm addicted to go ahead. And when I stand before my creator, I hope he says, Mark, well done, thou good and faithful servant. You were that one talent person You're just an average to below average kid. And you have turned it into two, and that's turned it into four, and that's turned it into eight. And so, one of the things that I have been thinking, and Elaine, she and I were talking a week or so ago, and she said she wonders if some people can only have a deep relationship with one person.
Hmm.
And about 15 years ago, my uncle Gary said to me, he says, Mark, you're really unusual. I said, how is that? And he said, you have the capacity to have many, many deep relationships. I'm like, okay, that's pretty. So I've also wondered, Amy, like if people go ahead and, are you familiar with the Chinese candlesticks as it relates to the stock market?
I am not.
It's fascinating. So you see the stock market, so you have a ceiling. The stock market has a ceiling, and when it breaks certain things, then it becomes the floor. So the ceiling becomes the floor. And so it's so I think in life and in friendships and relationships, I wonder if people get to a certain level and that's all they're not going to grow beyond that level. So
Well, you can't ever arrive. If you think you've arrived or you've figured it all out, you start to die. You should always be challenging yourself to get better and grow and learn and
well
understand, right?
there was a young man, he was in his early 30s and he got married early mid 30s and I was talking to him and he said, "Well, I've pretty much achieved all my goals. I mean, I've wanted to have a good job and get married and have kids and own a house. That's my goals." And I thought, how sad. What a sad thing. And I think what happens is when people, and who's joined us?
Katie.
Katie. How's Katie doing? Katie, this is Amy. Amy, this is Katie.
Hi,
So
Katie.
so Katie's
Hi,
joining us
Amy.
and she's going to go ahead and become an EVA and an LP and she's got, she's really cool and we're excited to have Katie joining us here. And so all right. So, Katie, we do this podcast, every week with Amy, couple podcasts, and so you can just sit back and kind of enjoy. So, it seems like Amy that, like Rosanna says about me, she's like you're an acquired taste, and so like, I
Yeah, but
like
we can't be everybody's cup of tea, right? Because it just not gonna work.
And so it's like, so, but I've noticed a pattern, like after, our oldest son, we just had the 6th anniversary of his death. I became more intense. Like everything was, so I was really intense before he died, but after everything just, I mean, it was like on steroids. And so what I've found, Amy, is that people that can hang with me, and there's not a lot, and that's fine. Like I'm in a season of life where, you know what, I want to have relationships that last a lifetime. That's what I want. And so, but even the people that can hang with me, it seems like it's about a year
Mhm.
now. Any suggestions?
I don't I don't know. I think people come into our lives for different seasons and different reasons.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that for over 30 years. It makes no
Yeah,
sense. It makes
I know.
no
But
sense at all. Like it doesn't make any sense. Like it doesn't. I don't understand it. It just seems stupid to me.
I I don't know, but I look back like because here I've lived where I've lived at now since I moved from Fort Wayne 20 years ago this fall. It'll be 20 years. And I Facebook chat with some of the people I used to live with, but I have a whole different group down here. And I prayed for God to bring very specific Christian women into my life because I didn't have Christian friendships. I hung with dudes. Guys have always been my friends. I worked in male dominated careers. And so praying and being specific, but also people have floated into my life, and I'm sure I've also floated into people's lives. So it's interesting. So, Mark, our year's coming up this fall as well. Do you think I'll make it? I think I will.
See, and this is what's fascinating is because, Jim Bontrager, have you seen this
I
video? This
love
tuning.
this, Mark. Yes, yes, I love this book for dummies. You're a little.
So I
It's,
did 20.
yeah.
I broke this down because I'm like, people, they're like, oh, that's a cute video. They're like, oh,
It's a great video, actually.
they're like, oh, that's cute. And it's like, you don't understand. You don't understand what he's saying. You're not taking it serious. So what I did is we broke it down into 21 points. We had the whole thing transcribed, and then we broke it down into 21 points, and we had 21 podcasts on this 2.5 minute video.
I love it.
And um, so I was introduced to frequencies by Frank Forte, super smart guy in the military, in the I think it was in the Navy, and he programmed nuclear missiles. Like, don't want to make a mistake there. and I was doing a coaching session, Action Vision coaching session with him, and he says, "You seem a little off today, Mark." And I said, "Well, sorry about that." He's like, "No, it's fine, but what's going on?" I said, "Well, my middle child, Katrina, she's 15 years old. Um, I'm telling you, I mean, I can work an 18-hour day, easy. And at the end of 18 hours, I'm on more fire than I was at the beginning. I have more energy at the end of 18 hours than I do at the beginning. Like, it is so amazing." He's like, "Okay." And I said, "But I walk into a room with that 15-year-old girl, and I'm telling you, she sucks the living life right out of me. And she doesn't even have to say anything. I don't say anything to her. She doesn't say anything to me. I just walk in the room, and boom, my energy's gone like a vampire." And he laughs and he says, "Oh, that's easy." I said, "It is?" And he's like, "Oh, yeah." He says, "You guys have different frequencies." I wasn't that interested in science when I was in school, but I became very interested. I'm like, "What do you mean frequencies?" He's like, like radio waves, like gamma, like you're talking science. I'm like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Okay, well then I'm gonna." I started studying. So I started studying frequencies.
Well, it's like when you talk about someone that walks into a room and they light up the room, that's frequency.
Or when they just suck the energy right out of the room,
Yep.
you know that's frequency. So what I did is I studied frequencies, and there's literal frequencies. It's radio waves.
Hmm.
And so they don't necessarily correlate to personalities, but they kind of can. So typically the cheerleader, the amiable, they typically are a low frequency, like a radio wave. And so low frequency isn't bad. They can come in and they're nice people. And then the next higher frequency is a teacher. And then you have a coach. And so teacher is the analytic. And then you have a coach that's an expressive. And then the highest frequency is a Navy SEAL. And that's typically a driver. But you can have an amiable who's high frequency too. But it seems a bit unusual. And so, anyways, so these frequencies help me. So I have this. So it seems like, Amy, that high frequencies can go low, but it can literally, like, it can kill them.
Hmm.
And so low frequencies don't seem to be able to go high.
But
And
would you say
so
that high frequency people can bring their frequency down?
they can.
And I agree with that too. I was just seeing what your input was. Yeah.
Yeah, no, they can. They
Yeah.
they they have to,
Yeah. I
because
mean, it's like when you pour it out, when you've been on, like, and you've done speaker, when you've spoken in an event and you get the speaker high, you know what I'm talking about.
I
And
do.
then later on, either later that day or the next day, you feel like you've been punched. Like, it's just, that's your frequency coming down and crashing all of a sudden.
Right. Like my international speaking coach, Linda Breakall, she went ahead and said, because I'm an introvert. And it's weird because people are like, you're not an introvert. I'm like, trust me, I'm an introvert. And so, but Linda Breakall, she says there's a lot of introverts that are, international speakers and authors. And I said, really? And she says, oh yeah. I said, so she's like, yeah, you're like a lot of them. I said, what? How? And she says, oh, they don't like to socialize. They don't like to connect. So they get in the front of the room and then they get a topic and they just nail that topic with so much passion, excitement, energy. And then all the people come up to them afterwards. So they've learned how, and that's true. So I get up and I go ahead and do my thing, and then all these people come to me. That's less energy. It's more efficient than me going to people and I just won't do it.
Right.
And so, um,
Well, and even extroverts, by the way, get tired of people and I withdraw. I call it being peopled out. Even though I'm energized by people, I reach a certain point where I don't want to be around people anymore and I just want to duck and hide.
do you think that would happen with you and I? If
Like,
like, do you think that we would like? It's almost like with most people in my life, like they can only handle a certain amount of me, which is fine. It's like I've had enough, Mark. Like I can't handle anything more, Mark, which again is totally cool. It's okay. Um, but there are some people like Ted McGrath. It's interesting. I was probably in my 40s, mid 40s. He was in his mid to late 20s. Really powerful speaker. He knew Deepak Chopra, and so he knew a lot of people, and very outgoing. And I was speaking in Southern California at an event. He was a speaker too, and afterwards, a bunch of us, speakers went out to eat. There were like 10 or 15 of us, and they're talking, and he and I are talking. And I said, yeah, I don't like these type of things. He says, oh, you do? I said, no, I really don't. And he's like, we argued back and forth. Finally, I said, I got curious and I said, so why do you say I like these? He says, well, you enjoy talking to me. I said, oh, yeah. He says, see, the thing is with you, Mark, is you don't like small talk. Like Lou Constable, he says, Mark, you know what? The first time I met him, like it was fascinating. It's just so we go to a Sox game, and the guy who introduced us was the vice president of Judson University. So we go to a Sox game, and it's two people. And Tori Gum, the vice president, said, "Hey, I'm going to bring Mark with me," and he's like Mark Borisman, and Lou Costable's like, "Okay." He's like, "I just need to give heads up. He's a little different from other people."
I wonder if people give a heads up about me. I give a heads up about you, but I've never asked any of my friends if they're like before they introduce me to someone, do they give them a pre-warning or a heads up? I'm gonna start asking that for the next few weeks.
My guess is not because you're just I don't know, a cool flavor. Me, I'm a little bitter, a little bitter tasting. Like this one's like those Sour Patch things or something. Like this.
Sour at first, but sweet in the center. That's so funny. I've used that to describe someone else, which I'm not gonna name right now. But I'm like a Sour Patch Kid.
Right. So they say, yeah, Mark, he just asked questions. So we go ahead and go to this, and he thinks we're at the baseball game, to watch a baseball. I'm there to go ahead and connect with people and change people's lives.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, he's the one that exchanged one of his baseball cards. This gives you context for like I don't know, a $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 car. So he traded it one of his baseball cards for like a $70,000 car. It's like, really? So that's kind of how he was. He was at like I don't know, a fourth degree black belt or something. And so he owns like three, four businesses. He does YouTube. He's a fascinating guy. Like I've never met anybody like Lou. Anyways, after that, he goes home to his wife and he says, yeah, I met this guy. His name's Mark Borsman. Like at the White Sox. She's like, okay. And she's like, man, he says to her, he's like, man, is he an idiot? Like he is like, he
I
just,
wouldn't. That surprises me. I don't know that someone would explain or call you that, but interesting. Continue.
Yeah. So he's like, he's just an idiot, irritating, just a totally irritating guy. Like just, yeah, didn't like him at all. And she laughs. And she says, "What do you mean?" And he explained it. Then she laughed again. She says, "Do you know, Lou, why you don't like Mark?" He's like, "No." And she's like, "It's because he's like you." And he paused and he says, "Huh, you're right. He is like me. No, I really like him." And we've been friends now for like over 20 years. And I don't know, probably about 6, 7 years after I met him, we were talking. He says, "You know what your problem is, Mark?" So he's a devout Christian, but very sexualized, like very much. And he's like, "Do you know what your problem is, Mark?" And I'm like, "No." He's like, "You got no foreplay. You just you just dive right in. Like you just like, but it's the social autism that nobody recognizes. It's like why would you have small talk when you can actually go ahead and share something of significance with people and have like a significant, like you don't have to go ahead. Like there's this men's ministry that I was a part of, and I'm like there for 6 months, 9 months, and it's starting up. And I'm like, guys, this just isn't working. Like they're like, Mark, you don't understand. Research says that men's ministries, men won't open up and be, serious for 7 years. I'm like, are you kidding? I mean, I can go ahead and have a conversation on the phone with a man, and they'll be like, you know me better than my mom. Like, I mean, I can forge a connection and a relationship so fast. It's like it's not hard. It's not brain surgery, but you got to be vulnerable. So, Amy, I always enjoy our time. Any other closing comments or thoughts that you have?
No, this has been good. I love the frequency conversation.
And it'd be fascinating. Like, it'd be fascinating. Like, I don't know which one of the podcasts, but it'd be fascinating to go ahead and, take one of them and share it with three of your friends and say, this is what we do on Thursday. Um, you ought to join.
Mhm.
Now, men, what you can do with men to get them to join is pretty easy. You just say, I don't know if you can handle this guy. Like this guy is the most intense, I mean, like this guy, like listen to this podcast. And if you think you can keep up to him, I mean, join. So if you get the testosterone going in men where there's competition, then you can go ahead and get them to join. But I find that when you have high frequency people together, like two of us, you and I just doing it together is a lot of fun. But when there's multiple high frequency people that are all interconnecting together, oh my gracious. Like it's just insane. And so maybe Katie can join us next week, or maybe Katrina can join us next week, or you know, I don't know, maybe Nora could join us. So if you're listening to the rebroadcast of this, you have any questions, connect with the individual who invited you to participate. And always remember, we can accomplish so much more together than we ever could on our own. Have an amazing day. Bye bye.